Hey, welcome everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I am Dan. That is Tim. We are the Nerd Champs. Welcome. And in honor of Valentine's Day, sort of, we're going to send a love letter to the genres we love and try to find some things that we can speak positively about because it's tough. It's tough out there, but we have found hope. And there are a few things that we actually believe might not be terrible. And if you saw the descriptions, you've come here we're going to discuss Masters of the Universe. I got my Gray Skull Power Company shirt on. I am ready. Tim is ready. What the teaser trailer dropped. But this has probably been 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've been pretty stoked about it ever since. What is your first reaction to what we're getting on Masters of the Universe?
Well, I think I'm always very cautiously optimistic because trailers are trailers. Trailers are not movies. So I'm always very cautiously optimistic when I like trailers. I go back and I look at trailers that I thought would be fantastic movies in the not so distant past here. And I was very, very stoked for the Superman movie. And though it was a good movie, I don't think it was the wow I was hoping for. And that's kind of, so I'm always very cautiously optimistic about these things, but I'm not necessarily, I didn't see anything that made me say, oh no, you know what I mean? So that was something that was positive. The fact that there wasn't something that they had changed or something that they were pushing or something that they, were going for that made me say, oh no, they're going to do that. So I'm very excited about Masters of the Universe. It is a great story. So I am very, very excited. The little 80s kid in me just loved it. I mean, I loved Masters of the Universe when I was a kid. I loved it. All those cheesy 80s Hasbro cartoons I can just eat them all up. I love them all. So this one, when I saw it, it definitely scratched me right where I needed an itch. There's no doubt about it. So I had mostly positive feelings about it. I'm like I said, I'm being cautious just because I've been burned so many times recently. But but I think it's definitely something that I can't say anything negative about yet. So
yeah. My history of being burned may have started with Masters of the Universe because, I was born in 1979. I am the last dregs of the Gen X generation, and as you know, He-Man was released in '83. So I am the exact target audience of this IP. I mean, I was 4 years old when the first line of toys came out, and when that cartoon hit the airwaves, I loved my He-Man action figures. I got Castle Grayskull for Christmas. My mom had to climb a shelf at a store to get it off the overstock. I heard this story many times of how she struggled to find Castle Grayskull. I had Snake Mountain with that microphone that didn't work. I was not allowed to get the thing that dripped the ooze on the torture thing, the bag, I think that put the slime on you because my cousin got it and he got the slime in the carpet. And then my mom said, we will have none of that at our house.
That was the same with me. That was the same with me and the ectoplasm from Ghostbusters. It was the exact same thing. I played with it one time and my mom was like, you're done.
None of that. That won't be here. But all of the non-home destroying He-Man toys I had. And this film's, I looked it up. I was looking on IMDb in prep. We did like the teaser, but I wanted to know a little bit more. It's directed by Travis Knight, so not some auteur, but he did direct Bumblebee, which is one of the better later day Transformers films.
That's the one with Haley Steinfeld was in that one, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
and it was like an origin story of why Bumblebee, speaks in radio, and I guess he was like the advanced scout for the Transformers. Is kind of a prequel, so
Mm.
uh, it was good, and so that's good. And man, this cast, I mean, you've got, uh, of course, you got Idris Elba, because if you're gonna make like a Nordic slash Viking slash something, type property in Hollywood, you have to have Idris Elba. It's not. It's like he's
And
got a writer or a contract.
it is one of those things that's really funny that he is in all of these kind of epic Norse warrior type movies. But the thing about it is, if you're casting these things and you hear Idris Elba's voice, you say,
Yeah.
we can definitely make that work. Like that's where I think he wins over all the casting directors on these things, because his voice has that dark tone of somebody that's going to be in in a warrior culture like that. And I always appreciated it. I think he did a great job in the MCU. I've
Yes.
always appreciated his voice work, which is something that a lot of people don't know. He's got a pretty lengthy list of voice work as well. But Idris Elba, yeah, I'm with you. He's not like, it's not like he's The Rock where he's overdone in these. I think
No.
he's done just right.
Yeah. He's got the build. He's really tall. He just kind of, and Himidol was really great in Thor, but he's getting like Man at Arms is that's a pretty prominent role, and so I'm looking forward to, because he's actually a really good actor. I don't know if he got to show his whole range playing Himidol, but he could really bring something to this. And we've got Morena Baccarin is playing the sorceress. I did not see her in the trailer, but I was looking at that. So she's the Deadpool's girlfriend, and she was in that the show where Claire Danes is crazy. What's that one called? The terrorist show, Homefront. You know what I'm saying? She was in that.
Homeland.
Yeah. Home. Yeah, you all know what we're talking about.
She's had a lot of network drama. Cameos. She was in The Mentalist as a cameo. She had, what was that one where she was like the leader of aliens or something. There was something like that too. She's had a pretty diverse network TV drama background. And then of course her being known for Deadpool is kind of what you brought up. The little known credit of hers that I personally appreciated was when she was the co-anchor on Bruce Almighty. That's a good one. But overall, I think there was no wait. That was the girl from Jag.
Okay.
That's a different one. But anyway, it's another short-haired girl. Anyway, but for the most part, I think that she's had a very good run on network TV, and I think that a lot of people are going to appreciate her in Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, Jared Leto's Skeletor we have seen in the trailers, and let me just say, he looks awesome. This is exactly what you want your live action Skeletor to look like. It is the epitome. The effects have caught up. And I was going to say, my being burned started with this IP, because I remember how excited I was to find out that Drago himself, Dolph Lundgren, was going to be He-Man, and we're going to get a Masters of the Universe movie. And God, I don't know what that was. I remember I don't know how old I was by the time that movie came out, probably 6 or 7. And, I had been marinating in my He-Man toys and my He-Man cartoons, and the Masters of the Universe movie came out, and it was on Earth, and there was this weird troll guy, and, none of the characters were recognizable. None of the costumes were recognizable.
One of the things I was going to talk about was Skeletor in the original movie, and how it was so disappointing to those of us that had grown up on the Masters of the Universe cartoon. because I do think that Skeletor was one of my favorite characters when I was a kid. I had my mom and dad talk about how I wouldn't let go of that Skeletor. I had Skeletor and Brainiac. I love the villains for some reason, and I wouldn't let go of them when I was 3 years old. I took them everywhere. But the one thing about Skeletor, there are a lot of things about Skeletor that were absent from that movie, right? First thing that is highly recognizable to everybody, well, other than the fact that it looked like a guy in a mask, that's the one thing we didn't want, right? It looked like just a guy in a mask. It didn't look like a skeleton. But on top of that, the voice, I cannot help but think that Skeletor's voice is so recognizable as kind of that high, shrill villain voice. You know, it was much different than what we got. We got kind of the predominant leading man voice when we had it in Masters of the Universe movie. Completely different from what we grew up on. And the other thing that was completely absent from that movie is all the quippy little sarcastic lines that you got, the little insults that you got from Skeletor that were just hilarious every episode. Like he would insult one of his henchmen in some hilarious way. And it was, and that was completely gone from that movie. It wasn't like it was even part of it. It was like they completely changed his personality. They changed his voice. They changed his look, and nobody really liked it because of that. So I'm with you. The Jared Leto Skeletor, I am very much looking forward to. So yes.
And Jared Leto is kind of a strange guy, but I think he could do this part, and I think he can give us kind of a high, weird voice. I think think
so too. If he gives us a good evil laugh, in that high, I'm really hoping that we get that. That would be great. And so
I don't know
throughout the Gray Skull. It would be great. So yeah,
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I get a constant barrage of these little shorts on Facebook and on YouTube of the guy who does the little Skeletor. Remember, and then he says some kind of like, your nose is always in your vision. Your mind just wipes it out until we meet again. That's always cracked me up. I love it. So I hope I get that voice. And we do know that we're going to have Beastman because we saw Beastman in the teaser.
Yes.
And nobody gets dumped on by Skeletor like Beastman gets dumped on. But like, and I've been rewatching some of the cartoon. It is so fun because Beastman is conceivably one of his most powerful allies because he controls all beasts, all animals everywhere, including like dragons and like all this stuff comes up, and he can control all of them. And yet, like Skeletor treats him like Charlie on It's Always Sunny. He's like, go clean the toilets, you fool. And then have the dragons attack Grayskull when you're done. So
it's crazy.
I hope he really dumps on Beastman. It's gonna be great.
yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. Jared Leto kind of has that. Because he's such a rangy actor. He is kind of one of those guys where they can just kind of give him like go, and he could just come up with a bunch of stuff. And I think that you got to have that kind of an actor to make this work. Like Lee Ermey on Full Metal Jacket, they just said go, and it just spewed from his mouth, and they just kept the best stuff. That's what you have to do if you're Jared Leto in this role. You got to just unload, let all those things go. And when you're insulting your guys, just go for it, man. I mean, and they'll keep all the best stuff, and it'll be great. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that that's what they give us for sure.
Yeah. And I haven't, she wasn't in the teaser that I could saw or any commercial I've seen, but Alison Brie from Community fame is going to be Evelyn. Yeah. So that could be, some great back and forth because Evelyn and Skeletor is great because Evelyn always has this kind of feel like I'm smarter than you, Skeletor. I could really take over this stuff. And Skeletor is always dumping. Like, I feel like Leto and Brie could have some really good back and forths. And, while we're going through this list, we have, like I said, Monica Baccarat. We've got Alison Brie. I don't know the girl playing Tila, but she looked the part in the commercials. kudos to Amazon MGM for not going the Star Trek Star Academy route here. We're not celebrating different body types in our He-Man universe. We cast women that look like they should be in the He-Man universe that can pull this off, that will look like the action figures we had when we were kids. So, kudos for not caving into that. Speaking of guys that are going to look like that, I do see, and I don't remember. Do you remember Goat Man? I had a lot of He-Man action figures. I remember Fisto, Roboto, and Triclops, but I remember Mothman. Yeah, but anyway, the Mountain is going to be playing Goat Man.
Yeah, definitely. They went straight for the warrior types, man, and I love it. That's exactly what you got to have if you're going to do this. You got to have the people that are these big lumbering professional. It's kind of funny. These are the kind of roles that like Kevin Nash would have played uncredited like 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
20 years ago. But yeah, this is what you need. You need people with the actual body and the actual and the actual presence to actually pull this kind of stuff off. It's like when you get these people that are relatively large, very well built, and even when you're doing it in CGI, it makes for better acting because people can actually have the presence to work with. So it makes things work. So yeah, that's really good news as well.
Yeah, and we've dropped a lot of names, and like this is some real star power for this property, this unloved property that we loved as kids. And it was definitely the movie from the 80s when Masters of the Universe was at the height of its popularity. That was definitely a B movie. That was not top level talent.
I would go as far as to say it was less than a B for those of us that love the cartoon. It was the equivalent of what we're getting regurgitated from like the Star Wars universe now and some of that stuff where it's like they knew that it was popular. They knew that people were going to go see it. It's like the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was awful. Remember that back in the day? The live action Super Mario. It was terrible, but they're like, well, people are going to go see a Mario movie. It doesn't matter if it's any good. And that's kind of what they did with Masters of the Universe. They kind of chicken wired this thing together. Bad costumes, bad sets, bad acting. And then all of a sudden, they said, this is Masters of the Universe. Well, it really wasn't. So this is going to be a properly done version. And I wasn't an overwhelmingly big fan of what Kevin Smith did on Netflix. I don't know if you were, Dan. Did you watch that at all?
I watched it and I liked it. I didn't hate. I mean, I didn't love it, but I thought it was good.
I didn't. Some of his choices I kind of could have done without. He changed a few things and I could have done without it. And there was a few other things I just didn't know if it was I didn't know if it was something that was actually going to catch and if the popularity was going to be there. But this looks like right up the alley of what I loved growing up. That's what I love about it is it looks exactly like that cartoon from the 80s just come to life, which is great. They've tried to do iterations of some of these movies from some of the movies of some of these TV shows from the 80s, and some of them have landed like Transformers, some of them haven't. But I do feel like the G.I. Joe movies, for example, didn't really land. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. And if someone could actually catch lightning in a bottle, we could have something here. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. And the one cast member that we haven't mentioned is He-Man, his own stuff. It's the guy's name is Nicholas Galitzine. I don't know. It's long. It starts with a G. And there's a Z.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Relative unknown, I take it, right? And that's kind of the way I would have it. I don't want to go get Dolph Lundgren at this point. The Dolph Lundgren would be who in this particular instance? The Rock or Alan Ritchson? No, I don't want that, right? That's not who we want to be He-Man. get us somebody that's relatively unknown, somebody that can play the character for a long time in case there's a bunch of sequels and things catch fire. That's kind of what we want, right? So he looks the part. He seems to be a competent actor based on the teaser. I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, and that's what with a role like this, you don't want a huge star that brings their star baggage. First of all, you don't need it because the IP should be selling it, not the IP plus this famous guy, because then the two things, they're fighting each other. You know, you're having to warp what the IP is to fit this person's previous reputation and knowledge. So, you know, the Christopher Reeves was not, he'd never had a large role before Superman. You know, none of the Supermen were people that people knew, and that's the way you should cast that, you know. And it's hard for somebody with a public image or perception to disappear into a role without you carrying who that is. So, and I will throw this out there, let's get through the comments, and then we'll get into some more talk about the He-Man casting. Let's see, what do we have here? We have Jon Snow Knows Nothing. So, what are you guys looking forward to the most about MOTU? So, what is the thing that has you the most excited, Tim?
Skeletor is it, and not just because it's Jared Leto, not just because the previous iteration was just not what I was looking for, but I feel like they're really going to give us the cartoon come to life. The fact that we've got, I'm not typically a guy that loves the CG stuff, but the skull, that having an actual skull is going to it's going to work wonders for how things are going to work together for the whole movie, I think. So the fact that we've got a skull, the fact that we've got a competent actor like Jared Leto, I'm very, very excited about seeing Skeletor done properly, because I don't think we have really seen that type of villain for a long time. I think the introduction of Thanos was something that really a lot of people would look to and say that's a villain that kind of reached out and grabbed a lot of people. But prior to that, Dan, I mean, how long had it been since we had a real villain that really was able to sell it to the audience? I don't know that we've had that yet. I'm really hoping that we get that from Skeletor and Masters of the Universe.
Well, Marvel has ruled the Cineplex since about 2008, and the big knock on Marvel by a lot of people is that the villains are largely forgettable. You know, the only villain in all of Marvel, you got like two. You've got Loki, but he's more of like an anti-hero villain. He's not sinister to the degree that you're really wanting. And then you have Thanos, but they also tried to add some like element of understanding to Thanos, which is just, you know, I think Heath Ledger's Joker was the last time we had. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Heath Ledger's Joker is I mean, and I go way back, right? Like I know the entrance to Darth Vader, you knew right away, right? The Imperial March comes, he walks through the smoke, he just kind of looks at the dead people and keeps walking, and you hear the breathing, and you're just like, oh wow, like he had you right there, right? And another villain entrance that I remember because it scared me to death when I was 6 years old was the Shredder in the original Ninja Turtles movie, right? Walking down, and the drums are playing as he's walking, and then the guitar as you just kind of as they reveal his mask, and that's the kind of stuff that we just don't get from villains anymore. The mystery, we don't talk about them, and then when we reveal them, it's just sinister and it's dark, and you know this is going to be a big part of the story is this guy's motivation. And so I just don't think we get villains like that anymore. And I'm hoping that's what we get from Skeletor, because Skeletor is one of those villains. He is Shredder. He is Darth Vader. He is Thanos. He is the Joker. He's one of those villains. And I feel like we have to get that kind of, like, they took a lot of very, very careful turns in the trailers to not show Heath Ledger's Joker. And
right.
The first time I remember seeing him was in the movie, and it was frightening. It was frightening. Like, that's how it should be. And I feel like that's, that's kind of what they're doing here with Skeletor. They're letting you know we're doing the full skull. It's going to look like Skeletor. Jared Leto is playing him, but it's still very mysterious. There was not a lot of Skeletor in the teaser.
Yeah.
You probably won't see a lot of Skeletor in the trailers. And if they have a big villain reveal, that would be so 1980s for me. Like, that would just be an amazing way to really introduce this IP. Because if you get the villain in an IP like this, it's hard to get the rest wrong. It really is.
Right. And I think I'm going to go with, and I think we'll get it. I don't know that we will. It's not expressly in the trailer, but just based on the tone of that commercial for the trailer where they were showing the 80s like ads on the TV, and like, it's a twofer character. I want Cringer / Battle Cat, and I want him to talk. I want a talking green and orange tiger that he rides into battle. That's what I want.
And not CGI. We want to paint a real tiger.
Yes. Actually, to get the size right, you can Google this later, folks. You're going to need to find a liger, which is a lion tiger hybrid. A
lion tiger. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sure. You're gonna have to give him a liger and paint him green and put a saddle on him. And then you're gonna paint one black, and you'll have Panthro for Skeletor to ride on. If they give me talking Battle Cat, I'm gonna be stoked.
That's
I'm gonna be like a little 4-year-old geeking out.
Dan and I are on two different planes on this one, but it is fun. That would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun.
But it's a property that can give you both of those things. If done well, could MOTU be the signature IP Amazon MGM has been looking for?
Yes, it could be. It's one of those. Okay. It absolutely is one of those. It is Star Wars. It is Marvel. It is one of those IPs. It doesn't feel like it right now, but 5 years from now, people could be looking forward to MOTU movies as much as they're looking forward to any other IP right now. And I feel like they Amazon really, really committed to try to make Lord of the Rings their thing. Like they really tried, and it just completely fell flat. They had no respect for what they purchased, and they committed how many episodes? And they committed like 30 some episodes or whatever. And it's just
50 or something, 5 seasons.
50, yeah, it's something stupid. It's something stupid. They committed something stupid, and they're each season has such a ridiculous budget, and it's so overdone. And I just feel like they just had no respect for what they were doing. This does not feel the same. This feels like they took a whole bunch of He-Man people and said, give us He-Man. And it is one of those IPs. Like, and people don't know it right now, but they'll probably, if you'd have said in 2008 that Iron Man was going to be one of the most popular superheroes for 20 years, people would have laughed hysterically at you, because Iron Man was very much a third tier Marvel character, right? Yes, he had his own title. Yes, he had his own run, but he was way behind. He was kind of a secondary character in the Avengers. He was, the X-Men were more popular than the Avengers anyway. Spider-Man was more popular than him. And there was just a lot more. But now if you look at it, Iron Man being done well and launching that universe is now like one of the top Halloween costumes, and it's one of the most popular superheroes out there. So I feel like this, if done well, could indeed be kind of like a signature IP. I think that's something that it could be.
Because here's one thing that Amazon seems determined not to learn is that they're burning money trying to make their signature properties that have already been done and done well recently. So like you pour boatloads of money into Lord of the Rings. Well, I mean, the Peter Jackson films, I know they've been, they're not new, but I mean, they're new enough. You know what I'm saying? They're not.
They're in this century, right? Anything in this century is not worth a full scale repurchase, retelling, reboot. It's just not. It's just not.
Yeah, because now they're pouring all their money into redoing Harry Potter. And it's like you got to be kidding, right? I mean, they just wrapped those films up like not that long ago, and they were doing spinoffs with the Fantastic Beast thing up until like probably 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. And now you're going to reboot it, and it's like, and nobody, not even the fans of that franchise, were asking for a reboot. No fans of Lord of the Rings were asking for like a different telling. They were fine. Rewatching the Peter Jackson films, that so. Whereas now they've sunk. Amazon actually can make good product when they go to something that hasn't already been done. Like Reacher was very good, but Reacher, the fan base now. Tom Cruise had already done some Reacher movies, but nobody was satisfied.
Nobody acknowledged that. Nobody acknowledged that as real Reacher, and that was why Amazon was able to step. Amazon actually stepped in and said, "No, we're going to fix this," and that is what got people's attention. So, for sure.
And this has got that vibe. Like Masters of the Universe has never been done right in live action. And they're like, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna take it seriously, but not too seriously. We're gonna take it the exact right amount of serious, and we're gonna turn this. And think about this. Now, you may not think about it in terms of Marvel level success, but Transformers is how many films now?
7,
Transformers,
films, right? Yeah.
Right. And then
and here's the thing. Anybody who saw the first film, it didn't make sense to continue past the first film. All right. They just looked at it and realized we had to do more because there's money here. So I feel like they need, if they plan better, okay, if they plan better than Transformers, they could do a 7-8 movie run and nobody would even blink if they plan it properly. Transformers unfortunately just didn't know what they had and then tried to figure it out as they went along. But this, I feel like that if you plan, same thing. I feel like G.I. Joe didn't plan very well either. Like they just didn't plan everything very well. They kind of just said, we kind of sort of need to do a relaunch, but we also want to try to honor the IP a little bit, and it just didn't work out. It's like, just pick one or the other, man. But I wasn't really a big fan of the G.I. Joe, even the Transformer sequels. Not a big fan of them. So what I would say is, if they plan this properly, this could be a big IP. This could be a big property of theirs. They definitely could. This could be their cash cow in entertainment. It really could be. This could be the guaranteed $1 billion film every 3-4 years. This could be it if they play their cards right.
This is an expansive property because it's not just He-Man. He-Man also leads to She-Ra. And She-Ra was a hugely successful property.
If ever there is a property, if ever there is a female property that somebody should really think about launching, it's She-Ra. Okay, I know that Gal Gadot did really well with Wonder Woman. This would be just as popular if done well, and it's something they should really think about, because yes, you would actually have people that would be very excited to see a female warrior and a female hero. It would be great.
Yeah, She-Ra had some great villains, Hordak and all of that. And that could be, and the whenever you had the He-Man She-Ra crossovers, that like kids loved it back in the day. So, if you do this, you could parlay that forward to get all of this extra stuff. So yeah, it does have growth potential. Flashing fast, do you guys have any concerns about Masters of the Universe? So what do you think the primary concerns would be, Tim?
And I've spoke about this previously, one of the things I don't really care for about cosmic storylines is that they lend themselves to just being green screen movies, which I'm not really excited about if that's kind of where this lands. I think that you could really do some good work if you did a lot of like on location stuff and did what you could to make it look correct. But I understand when you're dealing with cosmic storylines, a lot of times it just ends up being green screen. And a lot of times that works out really well for the production, efficiency and all that kind of stuff. I understand all that. It's in LA. The actors can always get there. You don't have to wait on the weather, all that kind of stuff. I just think occasionally too much CG in the background is one of those things that I'm not a fan of. So that is something. The MCU eventually got to this where it was just like every movie, it was just nothing but in a green screen studio. And I would prefer that was not how they handled this IP. And Amazon has shown they're willing to actually do some on location stuff. So I hope they kind of do that. That's what the Lord of the Rings was. A lot of that was on location in the Rings of Power. So I hope that they do some on location stuff. And not just exclusively green screen. That would be my biggest thing, because I think that adds an element of artificial feel to the film that I just don't care for.
Yeah. A lot of films now, it's like when we were younger and you didn't really when you're reading comics. Some people didn't like certain artists because they were too lazy to do good backgrounds.
Exactly.
You'd get panels and all of a sudden it's just a blank. There's just the character doing stuff and the background is just a solid color blank of nothing. And like you actually get that in films now where they're in some cosmic outer space, nether realm dimension something, and there's just a blank rolling background of goo nothingness.
Love and Thunder was huge for this. Love and Thunder was just nothing but green screen, and it looked like a Windows 98 screensaver behind them like the whole time. And I just couldn't stand that. That is something that I just don't care for.
Yeah. I would think concerns going in, the fact that any of it was set on Earth was concerning to me. The trailer kind of looks like the Earth stuff is funny and that there's not too much of it. I would be concerned. I wouldn't want more than like 15-20 minutes of the runtime to be spent.
I'm kind of with you there. I'm kind of with you there, Dan. I don't think that being on Earth is bad necessarily, but I don't want the majority of the movie to be on Earth because that's not what I came to the theater for. You know what I mean? Like I'll never forget the first Ang Lee Hulk movie. When I went to see that in theaters, I was actually really excited about it. Like I had downloaded the countdown clock on my computer and was very excited to go see the Ang Lee Hulk movie. And then he doesn't even turn into the Hulk for almost an hour in the movie. And you're just sitting here the whole time like this is the lamest story. And then he does turn into the Hulk and it looks awful. And you're just like, oh my goodness, what did I wait all this time for? So I'm with you there. Let's get to what we came for, right? We came for He-Man. We didn't come for Adam. And I think that's what we need to remember. So,
Yeah. That's like I was just watching Icons on Earth about Spider-Man, and they were talking about when they were doing Doc Ock. A lot of Doc Ock was practical. I didn't even know that. And you know, they used puppets,
The
and
close
Raimi's
stuff,
big
like
line was
like when he was using it to drink and when he was doing all that, that was all just like right off the side.
Yeah. Yeah. And Raimi's line was, the kids want to see the puppets. And so that's the thing. The kids want to see the puppets, man. Let's get us the puppets. So the kids want to see Eternia. let's show us Eternia. And I will, while we're talking about concerns, you're on the wrong podcast or the wrong stream if you want to hear these concerns, but these concerns are out there, right? Tim only voices these type of concerns when you talk about Batman. But I'm gonna put on my comic book cinema Jonathan hat. I'm gonna put on my Jonathan hat here and say, come on, man. That guy isn't even jacked enough. He's nowhere near big enough to be He-Man. He's got to be huge, man. He's a scrawny little dude. Like, he doesn't have the build to be He-Man. He's got to be like a house. So, what do you think of those concerns, Tim?
First of all, I don't know that that's true. I mean, I think that the what we saw of him in the trailer made me think. We haven't seen him in the garb. Okay, we haven't seen him in the garb, so let's just kind of give a little leeway there. But from what I saw, I'll bet the dude has muscles on top of muscles. He was just wearing like a pink polo or something, and we couldn't tell. But I'll bet the guy actually has a pretty decent build. And look, is he gonna be a guy that is he gonna be? The thing about He-Man is He-Man obviously was known for being ripped, but I almost think Dolph Lundgren is like too big for He-Man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think of oversized Russian when I'm thinking of He-Man. And so he needs to be jacked. There's no doubt about that, right? Like when we're talking about Submariner in the MCU, I think a lot of us are going to look at that and be like, that is not the build of the Submariner, right? And that's kind of what I didn't get those kind of vibes at all. Just, I didn't get like, this is way off. I didn't get that. The guy needs to be muscular, and I think he will be. The shirt fit him pretty tight there. I think he will be. But he doesn't need to be enormous either. Okay. I want a guy that's built enough that looks like he could go up against, someone like the Mountain, right? I want someone that looks like he could do that, but he doesn't have to be that big, right? And that's one of the things. The great thing about He-Man is when he gets that sword, it's the great equalizer. And so I feel like that's the thing that is going to come through in this. I don't think he needs to be huge. That's just me. It's different than Batman, who does quick ninja moves, and Christian Bale is like 5'10" or something stupid. So it's weird. Okay, it's weird. He needs to be a little bigger than that if he's going to beat up a whole warehouse full of guys. That's not realistic. But He-Man, there's magic involved. It doesn't have to be enormous.
The Gracie won the MMA fight when there were no weight classes or anything. Horace Gracie beat everybody.
I get it, and
that dude's like 5-0.
And Bruce Lee probably could have won a fight against any opponent of any size. I get it. Okay, I totally get it. I'm just telling you from an optical standpoint, it does not look right when Batman is beating up all these people and he's 5'10". It doesn't make sense. So, and it doesn't look that way. It doesn't look like he's 5'10" in the comic books or in animation. So I rest my case. Move on.
But I think that this guy, I mean, you're not going to get Arnold in Conan. You know what I'm saying? That's not, where Arnold had to drop like 30 pounds worth of muscle just to be able to swing the sword over his head because he
Yeah.
had just come off of doing Mr. Olympia and he had too much muscle to do that. His arms didn't do that because they were too big. So
Yeah.
they had to take some time and he had to drop some muscles to be able to put it over his head. So you're not going to get a dude that if you want that, just watch Conan the Barbarian again. You'll never be disappointed. It's always fun to watch.
Yeah.
Especially like when they're fighting
Exactly.
silly snakes, you know.
And I feel like that's kind of what they tried to do in the original Masters of the Universe, right? With Dolph Lundgren, they were like, we need a big muscular guy. You really don't. You know what I mean? You really don't need a big muscular guy. You just need a muscular guy. And you need a guy that looks like He-Man, and that's what they got. So I'm happy with it so far.
Yeah. So let's see what else. What's our next comment here? Oh, hey, speaking of really big muscular dudes, and my comic book center Jonathan hat. We have Jonathan's hall pass being mentioned. I am the Knight. MF says, I love Cavill and Brown, but Voltron seems like Amazon expecting MOTU to do well and ride its coattails. So I got to tell you, 4-year-old me, as much as he loved his He-Man, I desperately love Voltron. Voltron was like my heart's passion when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And now Voltron, the cartoon, see, He-Man was a toy line that launched a cartoon to help sell the toys. Mm-hmm. Voltron was a cartoon first and foremost. It was an anime project, Go Lion Beast King, I think it's called. There's no dub of it that you can watch the original unedited Japanese version in English. So I don't like reading subtitles, so I don't know what exactly they changed, but so they took this Japanese anime and they just cut it all up and reordered everything and changed the plot lines and dubbed it to English, and they gave us Voltron. And man, did I love it. It was just, man, when that blazing sword comes out, you know, an owl formed the head. There was no Voltron toy line, and man, I would wish I could, some of my earliest memories, because you're talking about I was like 4. I would wish upon a star that there would be a Voltron toy because I loved watching Voltron, and there was no Voltron toy. And when that die-cast Voltron came out with the 5 lions, oh, you bet I had that. Oh, God, I love Voltron. So I hope this is good, but man, I don't know. I don't even know what is happening when I know that Henry Cavill's in it. I know that it was shot.
It's shot.
And
right?
Yeah,
it's shot.
It's done.
And it's kind of weird. They keep saying expected 2026 release. I just don't think that's possible. I don't know how in the world, unless they give us a garbage product, I just don't know how they could rush it through to 2026. They haven't announced who's playing who, which is a big part of the buildup for the film. It's like, do you want the film to do well or do you not, right? Henry Cavill and Sterling K. Brown are great. It's great that you got those guys, but people would like to get excited about who they're playing before you launch the movie. I think our big commercial moments in the Super Bowl have passed, right? If you were going to launch a movie, you would want to have a commercial at the very latest during the Super Bowl, because now if you launch a commercial, you're going to hope that it goes viral online, and I just don't know if you're going to get that, because people are going to be looking at the trailers now for Masters of the Universe that are going to be released coming out, and I just don't know if it's going to be noisy. It's going to be noisy to try to get people excited about another IP. 2027 would be my guess. All right. I'm guessing 2027, and I'm guessing that they go the same route where maybe they go ahead and do a Super Bowl commercial and kind of launch everything at Comic-Con, tell us who's playing who. That would be exciting if they did all that. But I think getting it through to this year, it would feel rushed, and I don't know if I would like that. But to answer the question here, does it seem like they're just kind of riding the coattails of MOTU? I don't know that that's the case. I think Voltron is strong enough to stand on its own, and it got 2 two great actors. There's no doubt. They're two very, very A-list actors to carry the IP. So I don't know. I think it's strong enough to stand on its own.
Yeah, Voltron. It's directed by Rawson Marshall Thurber, but he directed Dodgeball and We're the Millers. So he's got some comedy roots. I think the comedy is a good thing because the tone of these films needs to be like serious, but not that serious. You know what I'm saying? We don't need the Snyder cut of Voltron or He-Man. You know what I'm saying? Zack Snyder's He-Man is well, it's Conan is what it is, but an even darker Conan that's depressed for some reason. That's what Snyder is. So no, so the fact that these guys do comedies, he also did Red Notice, not a great thing. That was the movie with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot on Netflix. But I mean, I don't know if you can hold that against him because you spent all that money on like 3 actors for a Netflix movie, and like there's no money left. You know,
go and make this Rock movie is probably a good test of your directorship because he kind of directs the movies themselves and kind of controls a lot of his screen time and lines and all that other stuff. So I wouldn't blame him for anything that happened in that movie personally. So yeah.
Rita Ora is also going to be in the Voltron movie, and she's fun. You know, so these are big stars, and Sterling Brown. I don't see him to be the kind of guy to take a job, even on a big property like this, if it doesn't have like a pretty good script. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a serious actor with dramatic chops.
That's the thing. Sterling K. Brown is one of those guys. One of the things that I don't like about him is you never know exactly how big he's going to be in the project. The big thing. I was very excited to hear him on the cast of Black Panther, and then he was in 3 minutes of the movie. You know, so he did. And don't get me wrong. Of all the actors in that movie, Sterling K. Brown acted like crazy in those 3 minutes, but he was only in 3 minutes of the movie. Okay. They went and got him, who was like a very, very high. I mean, that was right in the midst of This Is Us. It was right then, right?
Yeah.
He was very popular, and they went and got him to do that, to just basically get killed by not T'Challa, T'Challa's dad. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's basically all that happened. And it's like, come on, man. Like, you know, so that's the thing. It's like, you know, how big of a role is he going to have in the film? We don't know yet, and because we don't know who he's playing yet, and that's the thing. But if he has a significant role in Voltron, I would be really excited about that. I really would be. So
yeah. I'm looking for a fat guy. I'm not seeing him to play Hunk. I'm looking for a little tiny person to play Pidge. I don't know. But I don't know if we have the whole cast. We just have parts of the cast.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I hope it. Now, this is the other thing, though. Masters of the Universe, as opposed to riding the coattails, they might be testing the water. Mm-hmm. And He-Man could be screwing me twice in one lifetime because famously, the animated He-Man film, the feature-length animated He-Man movie, was released in theaters. It was He-Man and She-Ra, and it was in theaters, and they thought they were going to print money with it. They thought it was going to be huge, and it tanked. It didn't do well. And because of that, the Transformers film and the G.I. Joe movie that were being made did not get into theaters. And I both of those movies are the cartoon movies are great. I just love them. I mean,
the Transformers movie is arguably the best animated movie of all time. Okay. It's absolutely insanely good. And so it absolutely did screw us, Dan. You're right.
Right. And I know a lot of people don't like the GI Joe movie because of the Cobra la 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 and then the Globulus and you go underground and all that stuff. But you know what? It's worth it just for all the scenes with Sergeant Slaughter and his renegades putting Lieutenant Falcon through boot camp.
I forgot Slaughter was in that. I forgot Slaughter was in that. I did. I forgot.
Yeah.
That's funny.
When I get done with you, they're gonna scrape you off the walls with a squeegee. That's one of the best lines. Anyway,
yeah.
Moving on down the line. So I think if Masters of the Universe, because well, I'll read this and we'll go back. John Doe says nothing. After Masters and Voltron, which 80s cartoons would you love to see a modern cinematic spin on? Ooh. All right, Tim.
This is a good one.
What properties?
I've got two in mind. Okay. I've got two in mind. Thundercats. Okay.
Thundercats.
We've got to get Thundercats.
Thundercats.
Okay.
Oh!
Lion. Okay. And then so Thundercats. And there's another one that actually was inspired by He-Man that I loved growing up. And I hate that it is not a popular IP because it would be so awesome. Okay. And you're probably a little old for it, Dan. I was right in the target for it. I was like 4 or 5 years right when it launched. And it was amazing. Okay. It was called Dino-Riders. Do you remember Dino-Riders at all?
No, I do not know Dino-Riders.
It was, and you can tell that it was based on He-Man because a lot of the characters, they even look like He-Man, right? Like the way that the main character, they got the long hair and the big build and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically like a spaceship crash lands on like a prehistoric planet. And then and them and the bad guys both crash land there. Well, then they both end up like weaponizing these dinosaurs and putting lasers on them and stuff and fighting. It's really cool. Okay, so Dino-Riders is a big one. I would absolutely love to see. I still have the VHS movies somewhere. Okay, because I had them on VHS. I watched them to death. They were huge for the Christmas toys. I had all the Dino-Riders for Christmas toys, man. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Diplodocus. I had all of them. It's great. And yeah, I would love to see an iteration of that made, but it might be a little niche. I don't know. You know, that was probably, I think it was only out for a couple of seasons. So it was one of those that it was like a flash in the pan and it was gone. But it was so cool. It was so cool. I would hate for it not to ever have anything else happen again. But Thundercats, though, we definitely got to get Thundercats. Like, if we're going to get He-Man, if we're going to get Voltron, you got to get Thundercats.
So, because then you have your triumvirate of magical cartoon swords.
That's it. You've got to have the magic
blazing sword, the sword of power, and the sword of omens. What is the Thundercats? Yeah, and it grows and it looks through the eyes on it. Oh, dude, it's ultimate. And so I'm going to second Thundercats because Thundercats is just it. You'll print the money. You'll just print the money.
It's just He-Man with cat people. It's great. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's He-Man with cat people. It's great.
Yeah.
You know?
And Panthro has nunchucks. I mean, come on, man. Right. So, I mean, dude, nunchucks with little cat things on the end. They're not just
things
sticks
on the end. I know.
Yeah, they got claws. Nunchucks with claws. So you look at them, you're like, why don't nunchucks have claws on the end? Mm-hmm. And I will throw one out there. Silverhawks.
Ooh,
Silverhawks. Yeah, Silverhawks was good times, man. That was right around the same time as Thundercats. It's an outer space thing with the like these chrome clad Silverhawk people. Dude, Silverhawks is great. If you haven't experienced it, then check it out. And the first thing that has to happen is these have to do well. So like I was saying with Voltron, when we decided to have this topic, I was pretty sure I'd read all over the place that Voltron was going to be coming on Prime later this year, but now I'm reading stuff about it. Maybe it gets a theatrical release. It was announced this month that Hasbro is going to launch a whole line of toys based on it. You usually don't get toy lines based on streaming releases. So I don't know if they might be waiting to see how He-Man performs, because they got done shooting that Voltron movie last May, and I don't think they've even started on the effects. So the performance of He-Man may dictate the post production budget of the Voltron movie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and Amazon really, I mean, look, I get it. Amazon prints money, and we all know that. But just like every smart company, they have an actual budget that they go by. I know it seems like they don't, but they have an actual budget that they go by. And they have made the mistake already of thinking that just pouring enough money into an IP is going to make it successful. That's what they did with Rings of Power. All right. That nobody even really knows how much money they spent on Rings of Power. The upward price that we're hearing when you take into account everything involved in production is close to $1 billion for the 2 seasons that we've got of Rings of Power. That is outrageous for the product that they gave us. It's absolutely outrageous. It's egregious. And they can't do that again. They can't just pour money into a project and expect it to do well because they're pouring a bunch of money into it. Disney's making this mistake as well. Disney has this baseline of $15 million an episode, and it doesn't matter who's in the show. It doesn't matter if it's people that nobody has ever heard of. We're going to spend $15 million on this episode. And that's something that I just don't think that anybody really has thought through. Is it worth $15 million to pay this kind of money for the lead actor in something that's completely unproven and hasn't made a cent yet? That's something that they need to think about. So I feel like the budget for Masters of the Universe has been very, very reined in and focused to make sure that everything is going to be good. And the return is going to be what really dictates what we get out of Voltron. What kind of money are they going to pour into Voltron? What kind of advertising are they going to give Voltron? That's all going to be dictated by how we have He-Man happen. And I would not be opposed to crossovers and all these if they end up doing well. That's kind of the thing that I think Amazon could really get in there. They could build their own universe with this, not just each IP individually. And I think that might be a smart thing.
Yeah, because now remember, He-Man is a spacefaring universe because his mom is from Earth. That's the thing. His mom is from Earth. She always has been from way back in the day. In the cartoon, she was like an astronaut, and she got in trouble. She had to crash land on Eternia. So, and this film sets it up that he manages to make it from Earth back to Eternia. So you can travel. Maybe you run into Voltron. So I don't know. That would be cool.
Yeah, you can travel. You can run into Voltron. You could have the Thundercats. I mean, all kinds of possibilities are here. This isn't just an open and shut thing, and that's what I really like about it. I think that the fact that Amazon is rolling the dice on this is something that should really make people in our generation very excited, because this is what we would get up and watch. We would get up and we would watch these on Saturday mornings, right? We would get up and we would see the new episodes of all of these shows, and we would watch them all the time. This is different than this modern generation. This modern generation just doesn't have that. And this is different than the comic book people too. So I feel like they can really focus in on an audience that really loved this growing up and introduce a whole new generation to it at the same time and make them fall in love with it. That would just be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So all indications is that this is good. And it's just good to talk about something that you're excited about. I have no excitement for any of the big line properties anymore. Like they're not producing anything. Even when they make something that's decent, it's hard to get excited about it. Wonder Man wasn't terrible, but the thing is, I fully expected it to be. I thought it was going to be terrible, and
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 And you have
go
to,
ahead.
you even have to put a caveat on that and say, well, it wasn't terrible, but the reason it wasn't terrible is because it wasn't about Wonder Man. It was about
Yeah,
some aspiring actor. It wasn't really about Wonder Man. And Wonder Man wasn't in that show. That's kind of
yeah,
the funny part about it. It's a funny thing when you go back and you look at the reason that some of this stuff is successful is because they get so far from the source material that people are like, oh, well, that's not a bad story. Well, of course it's not a bad story. That was a drama. That wasn't a superhero show. And so
yeah.
that's kind of, and I'm with you, Dan. I think that a lot of these I just end up being disappointed from the get-go. Like I fully expect them all to stink just because I know what they're going to be pushing. I know what they're going to be doing. This doesn't have any of that feel. It doesn't have the
Right.
feel like they're really trying to change my mind on, on political issues, or they're not trying to preach to me. This is just me having fun watching a movie, which I'm excited about.
And they're also not trying to be edgy and like, I don't
Mm-mm.
know, like, okay, I liked the Superman movie more than you. I thought it was
Mhm.
great. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I was excited to see Superman in a movie because Superman hadn't been in a movie like an actual Superman forever. Because the Cavill movies don't count. Superman, he never played Superman. This was Superman, and that was exciting to me. But this Supergirl movie, the trailers just it all looks so dusty and like sepia toned and kind of dark, and it looks Snyder-esque, really is what I'm trying to say. The color palette is poop and the tone seems edgy, like, ooh, look how edgy we are, she's the
Mhm.
crypto peed on the paper with Superman on it, and she's like, oh, you only got a little bit of it on the floor because we're edgy. And it's like, yeah, man, you're banging this drum too hard. This is getting
Yeah.
tiresome already, and I
I
haven't even
I
seen the movie
I
yet.
love I love James Gunn, but I've got to question this decision. And that's kind of, this is what these modern IPs are doing to us, Dan. They're doing this where they introduce things to us that we don't really know if we're going to like them or not. If it's better than we think, then we're like, oh, well, that's better than I thought, but that still wasn't good. And then, so I just, there's a lot to unpack with what they're doing at Disney and at DC. I don't necessarily think that I'm giving up on the DC universe just yet. Um, I am personally going to see it out as long as they'll have it. I don't know how long it'll be now that the mergers happen, but as long as they're going to have this universe, I will see it out until Brave and the Bold. I'm going to be there for every project until Brave and the Bold, hoping that they do Batman well enough that it can bring the whole thing together. But if we get to that point and Batman is not good, I'll be out. Okay. And he doesn't have to be amazing. He just has to not be bad Batman.
Yeah.
so just
Just
give me something like that. So I'm not, like I said, I'm going to question these decisions, but this is what these IPs are doing to us now. And Masters of the Universe doesn't look like it's doing this. It looks like it's actually giving us something good out of the get go. And it looks like they've got plans to kind of build a universe around it, which I can get excited about. That's good. This is what the MCU did at the very beginning that made it popular.
while we're talking about things that we actually have hope for, uh and honestly, it's hard not to gripe because I was just, like I said, I was watching the Icons on Earth about Spider-Man, and I am not looking forward to the new Spider-Man film. And Spider-Man is my favorite thing, like by a lot. Spider-Man is my favorite character. He's the reason I read comic books. my entire interest in comic books started with Spider-Man and expanded from there. You can't really see it here, but like half of this room is Spider-Man. Okay, so like Spider-Man sits ahead of Star Wars. It sits ahead of everything for me, and I have no reason really to not look forward to the new Spider-Man because I have liked all of the Holland Spider-Man movies so far. You know, I liked Homecoming and Far From Home and No Way Home. I liked them all. I liked the Avengers movies he was in. I liked Endgame doesn't wear well, but I liked it when I saw it. And Infinity War was great. So I mean, I have no reason to dread a new Tom Holland Spider-Man movie other than I just know that I do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll step in here and say that typically when we're talking about movies like this, within the first three, you normally get something that's kind of questionable. You normally get something that's like, ooh, that was a weird direction, or what were they thinking with that? Or, when they come in threes like this, it normally comes in threes for a reason. And the fact that this is the fourth one and the other three have all been really good makes me think we're out of chances. I just feel like we are going to see, like, let's just face it. When we all went, what are we watching right now? Topher Grace is a skinny little kid. He doesn't look like Eddie Brock at all. Okay.
Right.
We've got like four main villains. We've got Sandman, and we've got Green Goblin, and we've got Venom, and we've got, the whole thing was just ridiculous. Okay. And then then they tried to spin this whole story about him and MJ having problems, and he turns into this weird like emo kid, and it does a dance number, and come on, man, like, what were we watching? Right? That's the kind of stuff that normally happens in threes. All right, when you do something in threes, this is kind of what typically happens. Superman 3. Okay, I don't think I need to tell you that Superman 3 is a bad movie. If I do, I'm sorry, but Superman 3 is not a very good movie. Okay, so there's a lot of studio pressure. There's a lot of people trying to make sure, because you don't know how many more movies you're going to get. They always try to kind of fit things in. I kind of feel like we're due to suck. That's the way it feels to me about Spider-Man. We are due to suck because he had three movies. They were all really good. They all fit within a continuity. They all fit very well within a continuity in the story that was being told at that time. Yeah. And I personally look back at No Way Home and say to myself that I still kind of have qualms about, did we really need the like pause for applause moment where we introduced Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield? I don't feel like that was necessary. That was a fan service thing. And I think that's why a lot of people really love the movie. I thought the movie was really good, but I don't think it needed that. And I feel like they kind of did that, pushing all their chips in the middle of the table. I don't know that they've got anything left to bring the audience back if they take a left turn. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. I'm with you, Dan. I had hesitation when they named it Brand New Day. I had a lot of hesitation when they named it Brand New Day. But I just don't know how we can make a fourth good Spider-Man movie. I just don't know how we could. Because these things, like I say, typically happen in threes, and this is the fourth one. I feel like we're due to suck.
Yeah, and it's still an MCU product, and MCU is just not, they're not in the headspace to give us good Spider-Man.
No. I just don't think so. I don't think so. I'm with you.
So in the spirit of things that might not suck, we just watched the Super Bowl. What did you think? Did you catch the commercial / trailer for Disclosure Day, the new Spielberg film?
I did see that, and I'm intrigued. Was were it not for Spielberg, would I be intrigued? Probably not. But I am very, very intrigued at the idea that Spielberg is doing a movie and that it got an advertisement during the Super Bowl. So yes, I more than likely will be seeing that movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this has got Emily Blunt. It's got who else is in this? There were some other big name actors that I'm trying to look through here, but again, he's got an A-list cast, and this is Spielberg doing Aliens, so this is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind kind of vibe, War of the Worlds kind of vibe. This is a subject area where he has given us some really big blockbusters in the past. He has not been making movies in blockbuster mode for a little bit. I mean, I think the last movie he had was The Fablemans or whatever, where it's like a kid likes to make movies, like a little small drama, So it would be exciting. This is, if he can have a hit, we can, we love IP. It's pretty obvious that we do. We're here talking about IP franchises most of the time, but I remember a time when like movies were sold on, well, if you look at the poster for Indiana Jones, the first one, what does it say? From the creators who brought you Star Wars and Jaws. That's how they sold Indiana Jones. This is the guy from Star Wars and the guy from Jaws got together and they're making this movie. Like you used to be able to sell movies based on this is the actor that's in it, or this is the director who made it, and you got new IPs. New ones were generated all the time. You weren't just constantly rebooting, rehashing, sequelizing existing IPs. Every now and again you made something so great that it became a perennial IP that went forward. And I mean, what was the last brand new IP that like was launched as a movie that like,
you mean an original IP, not an adapted IP?
Yeah, not a novel, not a comic book, not a TV show.
Yeah. If you're talking about like an original IP, you're gonna have to go back a ways to find one. I personally like a lot of the things. I honestly like now when I look at Netflix, when I look at Amazon, when I look at Disney and all these studios, sometimes I look at something and think they're original and then not realize it's a comic book, or not realize that it was based on a book, or not realize that it was based on, some previous cartoon or storyline. So that's happened to me a lot. I mean, so I don't really know. Was The Boys based on an actual comic book?
Yes. The Boys is a comic book.
So see, I didn't know that. So
I think
that's just a perfect example. That's just a perfect example. I think everybody actually shoots for adapted works now because it's just so much easier. You don't have to write the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a good question. When was the last time we had something that was just Stranger Things, I guess, is original, right?
Yes,
that would
Stranger
probably be an original. That would probably be considered the biggest original IP right now, right?
Within the last 10, 15 years. I mean, because
exactly.
We're always on here talking about the last Indiana Jones project, the last Ghostbusters project, the last Alien project, the last Star Wars project. All of those properties that I just listed began their lives as films. They were totally original films that they weren't based on any kind of novel or comic book or nothing. They were like, okay, I'm going to come up with a movie. Back to the Future, Terminator, like like you said, it was great to grow up in the 80s and 90s, because all of these things were coming out and they were just like, you were getting one of the Die Hard, all this stuff was coming out. Predator, it was coming out every other year. Something like that was coming out, and then they would launch whole franchises. I guess Fast and the Furious. Fast and the Furious was an original concept, but really,
we're not. We're not. It should have died about 5 movies ago, so we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, I if you had to pick one right now, I think that would be it. It would be Stranger Things, and I don't know, and I don't know that it goes beyond what it already is. I think Stranger Things is going to be just this story that's going to last however many seasons, and then that's it. I don't see a lot of spin-offs happening. I don't see them creating a universe for it, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's not like some of these other IPs, and that's the whole thing. I think you got to have someone like Spielberg in charge. You got to have somebody like George Lucas, somebody that can build a world. That's how it needs to start, right? If you can build a world properly, the rest will just kind of fall into place, right? So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to go back. Everybody wants to do an adapted work now. Everybody, because it's so much easier. So yeah.
So hopefully Spielberg succeeds with this Disclosure Day, and we get something new and original that's not based on some other thing that we've already seen. And we know that Spielberg could bring the thrills. We know that he can make a good movie. So like, there are some projects. We're excited for Masters of the Universe. I'm excited to see what Spielberg's got going on Disclosure Day. I hope Masters of the Universe makes all kinds of money so that Amazon decides to funnel a ton of that money into Voltron and then release it in theaters next year, as opposed to dumping it on Amazon Prime late this year, So, there are things out there to be excited about. Did you have any other Masters of the Universe takes or other projects that we think might have a happy outcome?
No, I mean, I think that this would be a really, really, really good start to something if Amazon can get this right. So I'm very excited about it. I am very excited to not have to be disappointed by a childhood IP. That would be great. Star Wars has let me down so many times. Marvel has let me down so many times. DC has let me down so many times. Star Trek has let me down so many times. I just feel like if I can get an IP that's just not going to let me down, that would be great. And I feel like, here's the thing, it's my birthday weekend. Okay, my birthday is June 2nd. It comes out June 5th. I'm very excited. This is more than likely going to be my birthday present, is me going to see this movie. So I'm excited about it.
So fingers crossed it delivers. Until next week, when we're going to come and talk about something probably that we've watched and hated or dreading having to watch. So we'll be back to being angry next week, probably.
Get off our lawn.
Yes. But until then, I'm Dan, that's Tim, and we are the Nerd Champs. And Tim, OH.
I have the power.